Coach, do you regret going for it on, or excuse me, let me rephrase this. Do you regret not punting on 4th and 4 in the fourth quarter instead of going for it and possibly pinning the Buckeyes deep in their own territory?
We had a good play called. Wish we could have executed it better, but no, want to be aggressive, wanted to attack there. Now when we don't pick it up, yeah, easy to say. Wish we would have punted it, but I felt good with the call. Felt good with the decision.
Jim, John, real emotional just a minute ago, talking about how much this game meant for the senior class and not being able to get it done. You assess his performance and the emotions that go into this game as well?
Yeah, I think the emotional game played by emotional guys, and yeah, same have the same regret. Wish the seniors could have gone out with a win.
Coach, you had it rolling at 14-0. What in your mind changed after that?
I think both teams played well. They made plays. We made plays. They made that was they're part of the ball game where they were. They cracked a few runs and quarterback got out and made a play. We had a few mistakes offensively. We had a few mistakes defensively, and they. I think we had a few more than they did.
Coach, can you talk about Donovan's punt return and the spark that gave you?
Yeah, it was a great effort by all on the punt return team, and heck of a play by Donovan. He's been really good, and spectacular at times. As a true freshman, that speaks volumes. What kind of player he is to be able to go out there and make plays. His very first year, just consummate guy. I mean, he's really glad he's on our team. Just does everything right. He's a do stuff right guy in all phases. One of our most favorite players.
Jim, can you say how close Brandon Peters was to playing? Did it go right down to the end of the week, or because O'Corn said he was told Monday he would be starting? Was there still a possibility?
No. There was the symptoms were there all week with Brandon, so there was no time that he got to practice. So and he wasn't cleared for the ball game.
And with O'Corn, the ball was sailing, it seemed overthrown. How difficult, can you comment how difficult it looked for him out there today?
No, I know we missed a few, but comment on the degree of difficulty. Yeah, there was some wind, but got to hit him.
Jim, what were the challenges of facing Dwayne Haskins, and were they unique in comparison to JT Barrett's?
Yeah, probably a better question for the guys that were out there. I mean, he got out on one play. There's some good play by us and some mistakes made, and a couple times we did let the quarterback get out, whether it was JT or Haskins.
Back left here. Coach, a lot of talk about lifetime contract coming. Could that be a distraction for you this week or your team?
No. Fake news. That was irrelevant.
Jim, you're up 14-0 when Metellus dropped that interception and Barrett scored the next play. Just how crucial of a sequence do you think that was?
Yeah, that would have been big. Yeah, there was some mistakes made. Where we that was one of them. There was others. Missed an extra point that there was a lot of good plays and then mistakes. I thought our guys played with great effort, and we got to get better. We got to get stronger. We got to improve. We'll continue that on Monday.
Jim, you mentioned got to improve as you guys head into a bowl prep and you head into an off season. What have you learned about your team? I know it's right after the game, but what did you learn about your team this week, and what did you learn about the team all season as it's kind of going through some ups and downs and in betweens here?
They're fighters. They work. They don't complain. They don't whine. And I love coaching them. And that's going to continue. We're going to keep going on the same demanding, punishing path. That's and keep improving, keep getting stronger.
Anytime you lose to a rival, I imagine it's disappointing, but especially so because it looked like you had a game plan that worked. There were open plays. You did have the lead on them. Does that add to the level of disappointment when you might have had them for a while there?
I don't know about levels of disappointment, but yeah, wish we could have won. Wish we could have sent the seniors out with a victory. I know the one thing. I mean, they did. They gave everything they had, and played extremely hard. Great bunch of guys. Great bunch of guys to coach. Great character guys. Great football character. Great character. Yeah, so it's disappointing.
Two more questions, Chris.
Coach, on the last interception, what did you see on that play? John said he thought he had something there and overthrew it.
Yeah, John misread the coverage. And Kakko was running he had a route, run a deep curl versus single high safety, and post for low quarters or cover two, and John didn't see the safety rotate to the middle of the field. It was a misread coverage.
I've heard you mention, Jim, a couple times today, got to get stronger. Is that something you've noticed throughout the year? I mean, is that just because they're young, or is that something you want to emphasize in the offseason? Got to get stronger, bigger, whatever it might be?
Yeah, we've been emphasizing it, and need to do that. Need improvement. Need to get stronger. Need to get better. That's it.
Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
Hello and welcome into the Michigan Football Report. I'm your host, Lena. Beside me is the Michigan football insider, James Yoder. We're here to break down bowl week, essentially. James, we get to go bowling. It will be announced on Sunday where the Michigan Wolverines will be placed. We're going to break down all the potential landing spots and opponents for the Wolverines this 2017 season. We're going to be breaking down some rumor-o-meters, too. We got a lot of them going this week, James.
It is rumor season, rumor galore season, and Michigan got, I think we'll talk about this in the middle of our rumor segment coming up, kind of some bad news that they had nothing to do with as far as a potential transfer that we'll talk about a little bit here. But a lot of rumors, Lena. We're going to get into bowl season. Michigan's going to find out 2 days from now where they're going bowling. There's really 3 options that I think all the prognosticators, scribes, and pundits have kind of predicted them to go to. And then we'll kind of look back, take a little trip down memory lane. Michigan last won a national title 20 years ago, 1997. And we'll take a look at their bowl history since then.
Got a packed full show for you guys today. So we're going to start off with our rumor-o-meter segment. And this is a little bit of history repeating itself with this first one, James. So I'm sure we've all heard the reports by now. Greg Schiano on Sunday was hired as Tennessee Vol's new head coach. And then the Vol fan base took over. They were up in arms about the Schiano hiring, and all of a sudden he's not their head coach. Sounds a little familiar, right?
Well, it's a little bit of karma coming back at Schiano. So before we kind of bring Schiano on screen, well, we'll talk about this in a second. So Schiano in 2007, so let's take people back there. Lloyd Carr announces just 2 days after the Ohio State game, which was a loss, which was his 4th loss in a row to Ohio State at that point. Which is kind of really that period of time that started this really bad stretch of Michigan, 13 out of 14 since they won the game in 2003, then 13 out of 14 since. Michigan was looking for a head coach after 2007. Lloyd Carr retired on his own accord, had been there for a long time, 13 seasons. That they at first had targeted people like Les Miles. There were some definite discrepancies in the level of interest Michigan showed to Les Miles. He tried to desperately call the team and the athletic director Bill Martin to see if he can get an offer before they played. Much like Jimbo Fisher, before they played in the SEC title game, they weren't available to give him that, so he ended up staying at LSU. And then Michigan was scrambling for a coach. Schiano was a hot coach at the time at Rutgers. This is in 2007. Went to the College Football Awards in New York City. The night before the awards, they agreed to it in principle in a hotel room that he was going to become the Michigan's next head coach. That morning, he goes back to Rutgers, puts that information in front of them. They give him a better deal. He calls Bill Martin back up, backs out of the deal. So a little bit of karma. We're giving this a 4 Harbaugh head. I want to bring up here in a second what that 4 Harbaugh head means. 4 Harbaugh head, which means this is undisputable. This has been confirmed by multiple parties at this point. So if not for Schiano kind of playing Michigan as a pawn, if he had real interest in that job, he would have been their head coach instead of Rich Rodriguez. A week later, I guess 8 days after that, Rich Rodriguez would be announced as Michigan's head coach the following week. So the rumor meter here, Lena, anybody who's watched the show knows about the rumor meter. These are not the rumors me and you have been coming up with out of our back pockets.
No.
These are out there in some form. Either these have been reported by other people, these are on message boards, these are on Twitter, these have been whispered in the streets of Ann Arbor. So 0 Harbaugh is totally false. It is fake news. If we give it a 1 Harbaugh, we're like, okay, somebody respectable might have said it, but small shred of truth, not willing to put a stamp of truth behind it. 2 Harbaughs. People are talking, Lena. We know what that means. People are talking. It's more than a couple. It's people. 3 Harbaughs means it's pretty likely, but our best sources inside of Schembechler Hall haven't confirmed it. And if we give something a Harbaugh, 4 Harbaughs, that is F-A-C-K. That's a fact, okay? That's how Jim Harbaugh spells it. That's how we spell it here on the Michigan Football Report. That is meaning is 100% confirmed. There is no backing out of this one. So Greg Schiano, if not for him trying to get a better deal from Rutgers and them giving him that deal, would have been Michigan's head coach in 2007. So I don't feel as bad about for him as some others do that he got this social media storm on him due to his involvement with Penn State when Jerry Sandusky was there. So that is that. 4 Harbaughs, F-A-C-K.
Little revenge being served cold for the Ohio State defensive coordinator. And speaking of Ohio State, that brings us to our next rumor here. Spate could have played versus Ohio State now, James. He plans to petition for a medical redshirt for 2017. We're giving this 1 Harbaugh.
Well, it's kind of a 2-part rumor here, right? So will he petition for a medical redshirt? I guess now there's nothing starting him or stopping him because he was injured in high school. He enrolled in Michigan as an injured player. So there's really nothing stopping him from pulling that, those medical reports from the 2014 season and saying, hey, I came as an injured quarterback. I couldn't have played that year, and I missed 8 games this year. I didn't go into the play after the game 5, which is really the rule in the NCAA to get a red shirt. So if you have to get a medical red shirt, they say, okay, you red shirt, that's fine, whatever it is. But if you miss 2 years because of injury, you can petition for a 6th year from the NCAA. That means he could potentially transfer and get 2 more years of playing somewhere else. Now, this is the really interesting part. I have heard it out there. I don't believe it. That's why I'm giving this 1 Harbaugh on this one, that he could have played versus Ohio State, but he told the coaching staff weeks back, even before the Ohio State game, of his intention to leave. And they said, well, if you're healthy, you want to play. And we're like, well, hey, if I play, I lose this year of eligibility. It's not worth it to me. I want to go somewhere else and try and rebuild my legacy, rebuild the kind of the starting position that he lost and didn't expect to get back next year from what the coaching staff had kind of led him to believe. So I'm giving it 1 Harbaugh. I just can't imagine a player of Wilton Spate's, I guess, reported character of being a pretty good guy, and as close as he came beating Ohio State and going to the college football playoff last year, that he wouldn't do everything he can, even if it meant giving up a year of eligibility 2 years from now, playing for probably Central Michigan, that he wouldn't have given Ohio State another shot at. So one small shred of truth, but I just can't imagine that's anything more than just some people talking and speculating out there.
All right, kind of keeping on this quarterback carousel, third rumor we have here, McCaffrey and Peters' parents have expressed displeasure in the possibility of a quarterback transferring to Michigan, 3 Harbaugh heads.
Well, it's not just a potential grad transfer, which we'll kind of talk about, but the next rumor, number 4, is almost intertwined with this one. There's been rumors for the past 2 weeks that Shea Patterson from Ole Miss may be coming to Michigan if they were to get sanctions that prevented him from ever playing in a bowl game at Ole Miss, and then he would be able to transfer without having to sit out a year. And then it started being talked about, okay, well, look, we ended up on John O'Corn against Ohio State. They need to go look for a shop around for a 5th-year guy, maybe somebody who's been supplanted as a starter elsewhere by a younger player, or a player who may want to make a step up in the world, come to a championship-ready Michigan team. And from what I've heard, I'm saying this is pretty likely. I've heard it from enough sources who would know that both Brandon Peters' dad, who has been vocal for a while when it comes to the Michigan coaching staff, and then McCaffrey's parents, less vocal, but they thought they had kind of an agreement to Harbaugh that, hey, we're sending him to you for a reason. We don't want you, you're going to develop him. You're not going to cherry pick quarterbacks every year and have a new competition. And so that was put out there. And I'm saying this is pretty likely. I don't know if Jim Harbaugh wants to risk one of these guys transferring potentially, but I guess we're just going to have to see what happens. I think this one is pretty likely, though.
Yeah, he can transfer without sitting out as a result of today's sanctions.
No, that's not true now. That has been debunked. That has been completely, you're talking about Patterson? It has been debunked. He cannot transfer without sitting out. He has to sit out a year because they were only given 1 additional year, unless something's developed in the last 30 minutes that I don't know about. They were given 1 additional year of bowl ban. So this year, 2017, and next year. They call it a 2-year bowl ban, but only added 1 year onto it. He has 2 years of eligibility, so he could play in a bowl game in the 2019 season as a true senior there.
All right, got a little bit of fake news going on there, but we want to know at home, who do you think will be the Michigan starting quarterback in 2018? Like I mentioned before, James, kind of a quarterback carousel going on right now in the Wolverine program. Who do you see getting that gig?
Well, it's really tough to say. I mean, this should be one of the better starting quarterback battles we've seen in recent memory in Michigan, because I think you've got 2 guys around the same age who have not much difference in their playing time. I think the perception out there is that McCaffrey is the more talented long-term option, although Peters was seen as that 2 years ago, and he was a true freshman as well. But I think it'll be Peters to start the year. But if he doesn't get them off to a rolling start, I think you could see a little bit of Drew Henson, Tom Brady from the late 90s, and get quarterbacks kind of coming in, give one guy a quarter, another guy a quarter, because Michigan hasn't had this situation where they've had 2 players this young with no upperclassmen in front of them maybe in my entire life, and maybe since Tate Forcier and Denard Robinson in 2009 and 10, when you had 2 true freshman quarterbacks come in. One got the job in 2009, the other one replaced him in 2010, actually. So I think it's going to be Peters to start, but they go on the road, Lena, game 1 next year at Notre Dame. That's a tough game to start the year, and if Peters loses that game, if he's the starting quarterback, I think McCaffrey is going to give every opportunity in practice the week after to get the job.
All right, guys, keep on throwing up your comments. We want to know who you think will be Michigan's starting quarterback in 2018. Producer Brett Scott will be bringing up the comments as he sees fit. Rumor number 5 here, James. We're giving this one 4 Harbaugh heads, right? Harbaugh took over the play calling duties versus Ohio State.
Yeah, and if you watched every Michigan game, this was a surprise to no one when this was being rumored around, because they ran a completely different offense, and you had guys wide open. I mean, the 4th down call in the 4th quarter, about 6 minutes left when they're down by 4 points, the one, Lena, where I unceremoniously spiked the football and then drop kicked it into the windows here in our office, that was one of the best play calls of the year because they spread everybody out wide, and then they brought a guy out of the backfield, and something they hadn't done all year, a running back, not going wide for like a screen pass or a pass to the outside. He came right up the middle, wide open. If he would have caught that ball, he not only had the first down, Lena, he would have about 40, 50 yards in front of him with one man to beat, which is the free safety coming up on him, and that's Chris Evans, one of the most elusive playmakers on Michigan's team. He would have juked that guy, taken it to the house. Michigan's defense would have held on against a redshirt or freshman backup quarterback to win that game. So I'm giving this 4 Harbaughs. This is fact, F-A-C-K. Jim Harbaugh called that game, and what I think it spells out there is he knew how big of a deal that win would have been for the program. He stopped worrying about his coach's feelings and who's calling, too many cooks in the kitchen and all these hyperboles and this stuff you hear about. And so I think that means is you're going to see some shake up on this offensive staff, whether it's Tim Drevno, his longtime 3-year offensive coordinator, Pep Hamilton coming in from the Browns as the passing game coordinator, potentially his son, or the offensive line coach who has done nothing to prove he's worth the job, in Greg Fry coming over from Indiana, Michigan's former offensive line coach under Rich Rodriguez back in 2008 through 2010.
All right, James, you kind of teased this next rumor we have for you guys. Pep Hamilton won't return in 2018. A lot of people have been calling for his head after a pretty dismal, I would say, passing performance the Wolverines had this year. We're giving this one 3 Harbaugh heads. James, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so it's pretty likely. The reason it's pretty likely is his name has been rumored around everywhere recently. Any job that's available as a head coaching job, and I don't know where he thinks he's ready, gets off thinking he's ready to get a major Power 5 head coaching job, because he has had no success in his entire coaching career outside of Andrew Luck being attached to him at the hip, right? So he had Andrew Luck when he was QB coach at Stanford. He went on and got that promotion to be OC for the Colts. That didn't work out. He goes to the Browns as their passing game coordinator and has been kind of a disappointment this year for Michigan. They had one of the most uninnovative passing games, and he also coached the wide receivers as well. The wide receivers showed no development from game 1 to game 4. It was some games you didn't even know they had a wide receiving core. And so I think Jim Harbaugh offered him a lot. He offered him a multi-year contract, Lena, which is not normal for assistants, especially assistants like him who wasn't even the main offensive coordinator. So his agent is putting his name out everywhere. I don't think you're going to see him back. I think what you'll see most likely is he's not going to get a head coaching job like I think he's trying to put the perception out. He'll take a job as the main offensive coordinator at a Maryland or at a, not UCLA, but a school, maybe not even UCLA, but maybe like an Oregon State, a second, level Power 5 school, and they'll spin it because Jim Harbaugh and him have been together so long, they're friends. They'll spin it as a promotion, much like Jed Fish did when he left Michigan to go to UCLA, but it would really be it's not working out. You got to hit the road.
All right, so we're bringing up a reaction poll here for you guys. Should Drevno and Hamilton return as offensive coordinators / play callers in 2018? Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people have been going for their heads this season. James, what do you think?
No, the answer is no. I mean, Tim Drevno, I like the guy a lot. I've spoken to him a few times. I know his agent very, very well. And Pep Hamilton, who is, I think it was a bad combination to bring in this guy. What's happening here with Harbaugh, I think, is he for so long has had his group of guys, and he keeps recycling them in and putting some of them like Willie Taggart out to bigger jobs. And I think he brought in Drevno because all the time Drevno got put in with him over 3 stops: University of San Diego, Stanford, then the 49ers. Gave Drevno his first offensive coordinator job, and the plan for them really was year 1 we're gonna see what's going out there. Year 2, I'm going hard for a job, a head coaching job, and that's kind of how he wanted to reward Drevno. It didn't happen for Drevno last year. He got 0 offers, and then without a bunch of all-American players like Jake Butt or guys who were drafted very high in the NFL draft, first 5 rounds like J.U. Chesson or Amara Darboh, you're seeing what Drevno's really capable of, which is not a very innovative offense. So I don't think they should return. If I had to predict, I would say Hamilton is gone. Drevno is there, but if he's back next year, I think it is absolutely his last year. Harbaugh gives him the, hey, you need to talk to Akron, Central Michigan, heck, even an FCS school if you want a head coaching job, but you're not going to be Michigan's coordinator past 18.
All right, I'm seeing a lot of ha-ha faces flying across the screen. Keep on throwing up those reactions. We want to know who you guys got for this. We're going to bring you back on screen now to remind you that we are presented by Game Time. Game Time is the #1 app on the App Store for last-minute game tickets, concert tickets, you name it, they have it, James. And for up to 60% off, if not more.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm going to the Big 12 championship game tomorrow. Not that interested. I'm actually interested in the game, but I like going to Jerry World. I went there early when Michigan played. The only reason I'm going is because, hey, it's a Saturday. We don't have many programs going on here at Chat Sports, so I can go there for $3 with the Game Time app, which is about 90% off what the face value of that ticket is, and I can just use that money, put it towards the bar at Cowboy Stadium, have a few drinks there in the standing room only section. But the only reason I found out, Game Time sent me an alert and said, hey, tickets are way cheap for this game that you've expressed interest, college football. I'm going with Game Time. So chatsports.com/tickets, or just go into the App Store for iPhone or your Android device, type in Game Time. There you go.
All right, let's go ahead and continue with our rumor meter. We're going to bring it to rumor number 7 now. Starting quarterback David Long is considering a transfer. Now, we're giving this one Harbaugh head. What have you heard about this?
Well, this one caught me by surprise. I didn't
Same.
think this was even, like, I didn't know where this came from, but this is a message board material, and it actually kind of popped up. I think sometimes these message boards, one person starts a rumor and it pops over to the other one, and then people like, oh, I saw this on this other website too. Oh my gosh, everyone's talking about it.
Spreads like wildfire.
So as a true sophomore cornerback out of the state of California, from Southern California, that he was unhappy, not with the coaching staff or his playing time. Obviously, he started as a true sophomore, and frankly, he's playing at near Big Ten levels the second half of the season. It was more or less he was homesick and thought he could sit out a year, go play for a UCLA, USC school like that. And Michigan already lost one of their best players from last year's recruiting class, same class as Long, and Devin Asiasi, who are under the same thing, just didn't like the state of Michigan, didn't like the cold weather, went back and is going to start for UCLA as tight end next year after sitting out this year. But I can't give this any credibility. He's going to be a true junior next year. If he's really homesick, why not just play under Don Brown, who's proved to be one of the best defensive coordinators in the game? Put a guy who made quite a few plays last night at the game you were at, the Cowboys game, like Jordan Lewis in the league last year in his first year as Michigan's defensive coordinator, and go pro early. Why not just wait literally 11 more months, you can go pro early versus sitting out a year. And then even if you're not drafted high, you get kind of what you want. You're out of Michigan, or you're there, but why go sit out a year when you're already a starter at a perennial top 15 program? That makes no sense. So I'm giving this one Harbaugh. It's out there, but I wouldn't put any credibility to it unless he comes out and says it himself.
All right, so this was another little rumor that both of us kind of were taken by surprise, and we're actually calling this one #fake news, James. Don Brown considering a role at Mississippi State?
Well, this hit the internet like a bag of bricks, a bag of bricks hitting you on the head the other night, because people are like, what? And the reason where it started from is it's just wild speculation from Mississippi State writers. Multiple Mississippi websites put on their defense and offensive coordinator hot board after Joe Moorhead got the job there. And so what's the connection there? They have coached together at previous stops. They're actually O coordinator, D coordinator a while back at Maryland together, have been reported to have a good reputation. Maybe not as good of one as they used to after Moorhead's offense completely shredded Michigan this year and dropped 40-plus points on them. But I digress. So I put this one in fake news. It went as far as a reporter asked Don Brown, got a hold of him yesterday. He said there's no truth to it at all. And I think sometimes these reporters, especially these bloggers with very few connections, they will go ahead and just kind of, who has he coached with in the past? That's the list. He's going to call up his guys. But you would never take the job at Mississippi State when you're the defensive coordinator and one of the top 5 paid ones in college football, like Don Brown is, with a number 1 or 2 or 3 defense the last 2 years. I think they ended up being 5 last year after being number 1 last year. But that is fake news.
So 0 Harbaugh heads for this rumor. Totally false.
I'm going negative Harbaugh heads. That's negative Harbaugh heads. That's very fake news. I think some of these websites are getting the Donald Trump fake news trophy that he bragged about earlier in the week.
All right, so yeah, 0 Harbaugh heads, not losing that key defensive coordinator there for the Michigan Wolverines. And then we have another rumor here, James. A lot of rumor mills churning about the defense. This time a sophomore linebacker might
Do you want me to say his name? Because it's very difficult to
I'm going to let you send it here.
So Alisi Mbimbasi is how you pronounce it, right?
Mbimbasi.
And so this is actually, we're putting this as a fact. This is FACK. He has, this has not been reported anywhere, so I am breaking this story at this point.
Breaking news.
He's left the team. He is gone. He did not return to campus after the Maryland game. He went on the road, went home, and did not return to campus. So he is from the state of Georgia. He was a low 4-star by some services, but really a high 3-star kind of project. Don't know what the reasoning behind that, but he is not a member of the Michigan football team anymore. This is a breaking story. We're the first ones to report this, and he's not going to be coming back to Michigan in 2018. And I don't think it's much of a loss. He got some playing time as a true freshman last year, really kind of got passed over by some of his classmates. And then Michigan brought in maybe the best linebacking core of true freshmen this year. None of them really got any playing time, but 2 5-stars, a couple more 4-stars. And I think he just saw his place in the team not growing and, really saw more playing time as a true freshman than he did as a sophomore. So he won't be on the team. He'll probably go down to JUCO for a year and then try and transfer back up to, Mississippi State or Mississippi, middle of the tier pack SEC school, kind of part of the country he grew up in.
All right, more transfer rumors now. Our 9th rumor-o-meter. Starting wide receiver Kakoa Crawford strongly considering a transfer, James. Now, we have this one at 2 Harbaugh heads, but still, I don't even want to think this is true at all.
Well, people are talking, and I have been calling for his head, figuratively, but him to be placed in the starting lineup for a long time. And he was a starter game 1, and his playing time decreased and really only made a few plays all year. He made a spectacular catch in one of the games I forget about over the shoulder. Might have been the Rutgers game or Minnesota, whatever it was. He made this touchdown catch versus Purdue, which was I'm sorry, this is the game I'm forgetting here, but he had a couple nice plays this year, and then got that play against Ohio State, which is one of the bigger ones of the game for Michigan, a screen pass, which he took 35-plus yards inside the Ohio State 15 that ultimately set up a touchdown. But I think this is a writing on the wall / a little bit of homesick. You always wonder what motivates a kid from Southern California to go to Michigan, right? And they've had a ton of them over the years, and quite a few have worked out. And then Northern California, players like, let's just say Tom Brady, Northern California going to Michigan, that worked out okay. But I think what it is I don't think he thinks he's going to be a starter next year. Tariq Black was a starter. He got injured. Donovan Peoples-Jones became the #1 receiver. So he thinks, if I come back next year, I am at best the #4 receiver behind Grant Perry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then Tariq Black. Plus, you've got Nico Collins and Oliver Martin, two true freshmen that are likely to compete right there. I think he sees a crowded depth chart, and he doesn't want to be second string for the next 2 seasons. And so he's going to pursue a wide receiver job elsewhere, probably in the Pac-12, I'm guessing, or potentially Mountain West.
All right, a little strategic move right there for the wideout. Last rumor we have for you guys, another transfer rumor. Former starting defensive lineman Brian Monet considering a transfer. This one, James, we give 1 Harbaugh head.
Yeah, and not because he shouldn't consider transferring, because he probably should. I love that face mask. It's a few years old, but that's an awesome face mask there. He got replaced in the starting lineup, right? So by game 9, 3 weeks ago, Aubrey Solomon, the very highly touted 5-star defensive tackle from the state of Georgia, also Mbisa, our last linebacker, whose name I'm already forgetting how to pronounce it. And he's going to be a senior next year. He's not going to get his starting job back, almost guaranteed, because you've got such talented players coming up. He's already been replaced by a true freshman. Chase Winovich coming back. Rashawn Gary coming back. There's really not a spot for him on that line anymore. So he's going to be a backup. He could 5th year somewhere else. He'll graduate. But it sounds like he was invited back to the team. A lot of times 5th-year players are not invited back to the team and say, hey, you can play here. We don't have a scholarship for you. We've given you your 4 years. But he's going to come back, it seems like. And that's a good thing, because even though he won't start next year, you really want to have that depth in the defensive line. He's better than putting a true freshman in there or something like that. That's not going to make a big impact. It's also why Wilton Spate, even though he may have lost his starting job, I think was not a good thing for Michigan to lose, because what happens if Peters get hurt? What happens if McCaffrey get hurt? We saw 2 starting quarterbacks go down this year. You love to have Spate there. So good thing it sounds like this one is a small shred of truth that maybe he thought about it, but Jim Harbaugh told him he wanted him back, told him what his role would be, and Monet was willing to accept that role.
All right, that about wraps it up for our Rumor-O-Meter segment. Before we start taking a look at the bowl game, so Jim Harbaugh's 3rd regular season just wrapped up, James. Yep. Went 8-4. So after 3 seasons, we want to throw a little reaction poll up for you guys. What grade would you give him after 3 seasons? So A, B, C, D, F scale.
Yeah, I mean, if it was last year, I would have given him an A, but I guess I'll give him a B. I don't want to say C, unfortunately, because I don't think that's fair. Based on people always will say things, fan bases. I think if you would have polled the Michigan fan base for the year, that most people were saying, okay, if Harbaugh is a genius and can do everything right, we might end up a 1 or 2 loss team this year. Right. But hey, we're replacing more starters than any team in the country. We're the youngest team in the country, and never has Michigan had as many true sophomores or redshirt or true freshmen starting like they did this year. They had 18 redshirt, 18 first and second years players start multiple games this year. Can you believe that? And so I think most Michigan fans knew you're going to have a tough time winning a lot of these bigger games, and they would have said 3 or 4 losses. That's exactly what we got. We had a chance to beat Ohio State. There was a chance to beat Michigan State. Certainly, Penn State was not a winnable game, but also Brandon Peters stays in versus Wisconsin. You might win that game. So it could have been 2 losses. It could have been 3, 4. So I'm going to give them a B. They were a play away from the playoff in year 1. They were a botched snap in 2015 from playing Ohio State for a chance to go to the Big Ten title game. So Jim Harbaugh has not had good luck in his time at Michigan. Let's just say that everything that could have gone against him as far as losing close games has. And so I'm going to give him a B. But if he does not beat Ohio State, he's got 3 games he's got to play next year. If he doesn't win 2 of the 3, Ohio State, Michigan State, and Notre Dame, all 3 on the road next year, he's going to win 2 or 3 of those to keep that B or improve it to an A, or he's going to have to drop, unfortunately, down to a C.
Is definitely an upward climb for Jim Harbaugh. Keep on throwing up those reactions. We want to know what grade you would give him after 3 seasons. Let's go ahead and bring up a comment, though, coming in from Teresa. Teresa is asking, should we leave the Big Ten?
For what? No,
yeah,
no. It's an interesting question, but I don't think so at all. No.
Yeah. All right. Next one coming in from Sean. Winovich coming back for sure?
Well, it's interesting. At the beginning of the year, you never would have put Chase Winovich as an early entry kind of guy, and he would not commit to coming back next year. So I think he's going to put out his paperwork to the NFL. He's going to get his feedback probably in the first 10 days of January, and it'll probably come back and says he's a third round draft pick or 2nd round, and I think he's got a chance to leave. I think it's 50-50 at this point.
All right, next coming in from Rodney, is Don Brown leaving? We mentioned this earlier, Rodney. We don't think so.
We need to get a fake news button and just throw up a picture of Donald Trump with the angry face. That is fake news that has been debunked by the Michigan Football Insider. Okay, fake news.
Hashtag fake news for sure. Bringing you back on screen once again, a friendly reminder, we are presented by Game Time, the #1 app on the App Store for all last-minute concert and game tickets. They track prices in real time to give us the best deals, 5-star ratings all around. James, you really can't go wrong with this app.
I'm not only a Michigan Football Insider, I'm also kind of a Game Time Insider. I know all the tips and tricks to get better deals, even beyond the great deals they give to you. So one is make sure you put push notifications and location searching on. You get notified if there's a game, the Mavericks game's on, cheap tickets. I might go to it, cheap tickets, why not? And the other one is wait till like 10 minutes before the game. Don't freak out and buy tickets a day or 2 prior. Wait, because the ticket prices drop big time and people think they might not sell them at all. They're willing to give it away. It's just always like, you ever fly on a flight where you're like, why didn't they sell this ticket for $20 or something like that, right? I always wonder that. I guess the airlines don't think of it. But Game Time's like that. Tickets are available. Get them on Game Time for super cheap rather than have the ticket go unsold.
Go to www.chatsports.com/tickets to download the Game Time app right now. But let's get into the thick of it, ladies and gentlemen. As James and I mentioned earlier, Michigan is going bowling this year. So we're going to break it down. 3 potential bowls that Michigan could appear in, as well as 3 different opponents for each of those bowls that they could face. So we're going to start off with kind of one of the lower bowls here, probably not one we'd want to see Michigan go to, and that's the Taxslayer Bowl, Big Ten versus SEC, and that would be the 5th seed SEC team.
It's almost like with the Taxslayer Bowl that's the dumbest name I've ever heard of a company in my life, and they make their name dumber by putting their name on a bowl game that people actually have to say it. It makes me less likely to buy their product. They're probably spending $10, $20 million a year to sponsor this game. But anyways, this would be the real backup of the 3rd option. If they were to choose teams like Northwestern over Michigan potentially, they could end up falling to the Taxslayer Bowl, which would mean they're like the number 6 team in the Big Ten if you think about the teams that would get games in front of Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan State, and then potentially Northwestern would get in front of them. But I don't think they're going to end up in this bowl game. I actually think they've got a chance to be 2 bowl games up on the totem pole, if you will, of where the Big Ten sends their teams.
So it's Big Ten versus the number 6 seed in the SEC. So a couple of these teams that we're seeing as potential opponents for the Wolverines. We have Kentucky. They sit at 7-5. We have Mississippi State, they sit at 8-4, and we have Texas A&M, they sit at 7-5. So out of those 3 opponents, James, which one would you rather have the Wolverines face?
Well, it's really kind of interesting. Is you want to win a bowl game, but you also want to make it mean kind of something.
Right.
And I don't know what's better for Michigan this year, what to potentially do there. Now, Kentucky would be, I think, a team that might be more focused. They've got their coach. That would mean a big deal to Kentucky to play a team like Michigan.
Yeah.
And it would mean a lot for that program to win. Now, Mississippi State and Texas A&M, I know Mississippi State, just hired a coach in Joe Moorhead, so never know what's going to happen there. He had some success against Michigan's defense. Texas A&M just got Jimbo Fisher. Now, there's a chance, probably unlikely, that one or more of these schools, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, they could decline a bowl game. You have seen that happen in the past. You've also seen it happen where an interim coach sticks on and coaches the bowl game. You've also seen opportunities where the new coach comes in and coaches the team. So I don't know what to expect from Mississippi State or Texas A&M. If I had to pick between these 3 teams, though, I'm going to say I'd like Mississippi State because, one, Michigan gets some revenge from the 2010 when Rich Rod was basically a dead man walking and got crushed by Mississippi State. And I think it's a big enough team that you'd be, okay, I'll watch this game, but don't have really a chance to lose. Whereas I think Texas A&M has maybe not the better season than Mississippi State, but I think Texas A&M has more talent. They could beat Michigan, especially if Jimbo Fisher steps in there and then coaches them in that game, which is still to be determined, I think. So this will be a disappointment for this game for sure. So that's no doubt there. I'd be really disappointed if they fell down here.
Definitely bottom of the barrel. Next bowl game, we have the Holiday Bowl. That's played on December 28th, and the opponent would be the 3rd seed in the Pac-12, in which it's a competitive Pac-12, James. So that would either be USC, Stanford, or Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I really think this is actually a tougher matchup. Even though it would be a lower bowl game for the Big Ten, it would be actually a tougher chance for Michigan to win. I think it's 50% likely they end up in this one. I would say 49% this one, 49% the next bowl game we'll talk about, maybe 2% they're in the Taxslayer. So they're going to have to play, a team like Washington or Stanford, and that would be those would be really tough matchups. Or if USC gets beat by Stanford, of course they could play them. I don't want to play this game because I don't think they beat either one of those 3 teams this year.
So
if I had to choose, I'm going to say Stanford out of these 3 teams. I think Washington's quarterback situation would be probably too much. USC's got a good quarterback. I think Stanford would be exciting enough for Michigan to play because it's Jim Harbaugh's former team, and I think Harbaugh knows all those coaches. A lot of his former guys are still coaching there. I think Michigan would probably have the most excitement for that game, and then also probably the best chance to win out of these 3 teams.
All right, James saying a 49% chance the Michigan Wolverines play the 3 seed in the Pac-12. Last bowl game projection we have for you guys. This is the Outback Bowl. It's a New Year's Day Bowl versus the number 3 seed in the SEC. So those 3 teams could be LSU, which stands at 9-3, Mississippi State again, and they're 8-4, and then the Gamecocks, and they're 8-4 as well, James. So out of these 3 teams, who scares you and who would you want to play?
Well, who I want to play versus who scares me, I think, is a little different. Mississippi State, as I said there, you might want to get revenge against those teams. I think South Carolina and LSU are probably more prone to beat Michigan because of stable coaching situations, had some pretty decent years. I think both probably exceeded expectations. But if I want to go best of all these matchups, which one I most want to see because of the allure of the team, the allure of the bowl game, and the likelihood of winning, I'd love to see Michigan get in this bowl game against LSU because if they do that, then I think you've got a really super high profile team you're playing, a team you've never played in bowl game in history, and it's against a 9-3 LSU team that I think Michigan can win. I think it's a coaching mismatch between Jim Harbaugh and Coach Yoder at LSU, and I think Michigan fans, because LSU finished pretty strong, beat Auburn throughout the season. I know they had that one loss to Troy, but I think this is the game that most Michigan fans are going to really look to want to play and would be excited about Michigan playing with a chance to win. And they've had some really good success against SEC teams, which we're going to show here in a second, over the last 20 years or so when they've played them. So I think LSU, Michigan would be my #1 choice out of all these games for sure.
All right, we're going to bring in a little weigh-in for you guys here. Which bowl game do you want Michigan to play in? So out of these 3, James, Holiday, Outback, Taxslayer
Bowl. Right? Yeah, so it's got to be Outback. I think it gives, that means that Michigan gets chosen over a couple other teams in the Big Ten who could potentially there. So, they've still got the allure of the Bowls. Never certainly want to lose that. You're playing on New Year's Day, which most Big Ten is always got the bowl game slotted in their favor. They get the most New Year's Day potential appearances. There's 4 of them usually, Outback and Capital One, and now they've got the partnership with the Orange Bowl and the Rose Bowl, etc. And so that kind of holds a little extra cachet in the world of bowl games. You never want to be playing on a Tuesday night in San Diego at 10 o'clock Eastern. That's with the Taxslayer, the Holiday Bowl being. So I think most Michigan fans are going to go ahead and say the Outback Bowl. And, just a little program revenge. Vincent Smith, somewhere, Michigan's former running back, is still kind of trying to figure out what the hell happened to him when Jadeveon Clowney kind of came off the left end and decapitated him 5 years ago. So if Michigan gets a chance to play in this Outback Bowl game again, I hope they'll be a little extra motivated to make up for that play that was shown nonstop around college football that entire offseason.
All right, for me, I know it's not a New Year's Day bowl, but I want to see them that Holiday Bowl, James. I love the Pac-12. I love the competition that they're bringing this season, and I think that story basically writes themselves with the Stanford connection and Jim Harbaugh. But, James, let's take a little walk down memory lane here. So it's been 20 years since Michigan last won a national championship. So let's take a look at all the bowl appearances Michigan has had since then, and we're going to start off with the Rose Bowl in 1997.
Yeah, so we'll walk through these last 20 Rose Bowls. Like kind of take people down memory lane for them. So if you think about this game, Michigan entered the game undefeated, 11-0, had beat a top 5 Ohio State team to get into this game. They had the Heisman Trophy winner in Charles Woodson, and they were playing really maybe one of the first fun and gun teams in the Pac-12. That's kind of what the conference turned into, which was Ryan Leaf quarterbacking the Washington State Cougars on a year nobody expected. And they would go 5 wide more than 50% of their time in the shotgun, kind of offense Michigan in the history of their program had really never faced. And so it was a lot closer than they expected, and Washington State actually had a chance to win the game. They actually got a pass down the sideline, caught it inside the 40, I think it was inside the 50, and had to run up to the line of scrimmage to try and spike it to throw a Hail Mary. They called the clock dead, though. They spiked it at 1 second. I think Michigan got lucky from not having a potential Cordell Stewart situation on their hand with the Hail Mary that happened 3 years prior against Colorado, and they called the game time over. Washington State didn't get the snap off in time. Michigan goes on, wins the national title, though, Lena. Very interesting thought. Most Michigan fans will think about this anytime they play Nebraska or Scott Frost potentially gets a new job in Nebraska. Is Frost and Nebraska, who were in the Big 12 at the time, they played Tennessee. Peyton Manning beat them 42-14, if I recall. They were all over the TV the next day or two trying to petition that they deserved a piece of the national title. Michigan's the first team ever to go into a bowl game as a #1 team in the AP poll, the coaches poll, and not remain #1. The first team ever to be voted out after winning a bowl game #1. So Michigan, Nebraska split the national title. Michigan took the AP. Nebraska took the coaches poll title.
All right, next bowl game here, 1998, it's the Citrus Bowl. Michigan played the Arkansas Razorbacks and won 45-31.
This is really weird. I have very little recollection of this bowl game at all.
It's kind of a blowout.
Tom Brady was the quarterback during this game. Michigan started this 1998 season losing 2 straight games to a very good Notre Dame team, and then Donovan McNabb came in there and beat him pretty good to start the year 0-2 after that national title season. Michigan went on to win 8 straight games after that, lost to Ohio State 98, which was a very rare occurrence back then, Lena, and got some revenge going into a 99 season by beating Arkansas. And this kind of started a string of SEC victories for Michigan here. So 45-31, they beat Arkansas that day.
Yep, string of SEC victories. The Orange Bowl 1999, Michigan barely squeezed the W and beat Alabama 35-34.
So this is pre-Nick Saban, obviously. Yes. This is one of the rare, really strong Alabama teams that they had back then. I think they went 5-7 the year after this when people were picking them to maybe a national championship contender. Matchup of top 7, top 8 teams this game. Michigan was down 14-0, came back to tie it, then down 28-0, came back to tie it at 28. It goes to overtime, Lena. Michigan scores first on their first play of overtime. Tom Brady rollout to hit the tight end. Alabama scores like 2 plays later, missed the extra point in overtime. Michigan gets the victory. Tom Brady, by the way, Michigan record that day, 375 yards passing, which was the record at the time. 4 touchdowns, also tied the record at that time for passing quarterback. And this game alone may have kind of been his jumping off point to the career that he had in the NFL. The first game of the millennium for Michigan, January 1st, 2000.
There you go. Tom has been terrific since the 90s. Let's move on to the 2000s, though. Michigan taking on the Auburn Tigers and winning in the Citrus Bowl 31-28.
Yeah, so this is a great Michigan team. Lost 3 games that year. All games they had double-digit leads in, and the games that they lost by, I think, a combined 9 points. Their 3 losses throughout the year. Auburn was the runner-up in the SEC this year. Drew Henson, David Terrell, the A-Train. I think all in you had in this team 4 first-round draft picks, 3 second-round draft picks over the coming 3 NFL. They were starters according to 3 NFL drafts. So phenomenal team. Didn't live up to the hype that year. They were a top 5 team going into the year. Ended up the year at 9-3, about number 12 in the country.
All right, another year, another Citrus Bowl. Besides, the outcome was a little different this time, James, in 2001. The Vols single-handedly just kind of blew out the Michigan Wolverines. What happened here?
It was a complete mismatch. So John Navarro was Michigan's quarterback. Somehow they scraped along and only lost 3 games that year. But, Lena, it was really interesting. Tennessee, this is, you youngins don't remember this. Every year this used to happen where a team was going to the national title game, lost their conference championship game. Tennessee was going to the national title game. They lost to LSU and Nick Saban in the SEC title game that year. Come in, they were a top 2 team. They dropped like 6. They're going to play Michigan, who was like 17 in the country at the time, and it was a complete mismatch. There was no, it wasn't even a game at that point. I don't want to talk about this game anymore. Let's just get off the screen at this point.
All right, Rose Bowl in 2003. The Michigan Wolverines took on the USC Trojans and lost, James.
Yeah, this is Michigan's best team since that 97 national championship team. Braylon Edwards was the quarterback, Navarro, of course. Steve Breston, Jason Avant, Chris Perry, who was a first-round draft pick as the running back, multiple first-rounders on the line. But this is a USC team that ultimately went up and won the national title. Very interesting thing. USC was not in the national title game, but they were the #1 ranked team in the country. How does that happen, Lena?
I have no
BCS,
idea.
but they still got a split of it. The AP poll gave them a split of the title, and this was Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Lendale White, Mike Williams before he got was on
USC.
Exactly. So this is the start of the USC dynasty here.
All right, 2004, another Rose Bowl appearance, but this time Michigan lost in a heart-wrencher to Texas, 38-37.
Yeah, back-to-back Rose Bowls. True freshman quarterback Chad Henne from Michigan. This is the Vince Young game before the Vince Young game, kind of 200 or something along those lines against Michigan. Michigan thought they had the victory. They scored a touchdown at the very end of the game, but Texas came down. Vince Young, just like he did to USC, got him down within field goal range. And if you go back, I wish we would have pulled the clip on this. Michigan should have blocked this. There's a time expiring kick to win the game for Texas. Went right through Ernest Shazer's hands.
All right, kind of continuing with this string of losses here in the Alamo Bowl. The Michigan Wolverines lost to the Nebraska Cornhuskers 32-28 in 05.
I really regret. We're gonna when we do our bowl show when Michigan gets this one, we're gonna go back and show some of the highlights of this game.
Yes.
One of the craziest plays of all time, Lena. I don't know if many college football fans who weren't Michigan fans or remember this see it. Michigan literally there was a band on the field last play to try and win this one where they laddered the ball literally like 7 or 8 times. It ended up with their tight end Tyler Eifert taking it through, weaving in and out of Nebraska's athletic staff who was walking across the field, ultimately getting tackled about the 15-yard line on the last play of the game when Michigan was trying to basically go 90 yards on the last play after Nebraska had scored the game-winning touchdown. So this is a brutal game. They should not have lost that one.
All right, so in 2006, Michigan got a little opportunity to get a little rematch here against the Trojans in the Rose Bowl and fell short once again.
This was shouldn't have been a mismatch. Michigan came in this game #3 in the country after losing the 1-2 game. Should have been the national title game as a rematch for Ohio State. I think it was one of those games where they are uninterested in playing. I think that uninterested playing lasted into the 2007 season because this was game 2 of 4 straight losses for Michigan. Ohio State this game, and then 2 to start the 2007 season when they were a top 5 team to start the country, to start the season. This was an embarrassing game. It could have been 45-10. It was that big of a USC kind of put the game in cruise control in the second half.
Kind of hinted to it, James, right here. So after 4 straight losses in bowl games, Michigan finally got a W against the Gators in 2007 in the Capital One Bowl.
I mean, this is most bowl predictors and Michigan fans thought that Florida was going to crush Michigan this year. Tim Tebow was your quarterback, the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yep.
Urban Meyer was your head coach. Name me a better duo, quarterback and head coach in college football in the last 30 years.
I'll wait.
Michigan could have, I mean, this should have been 40, it should have been a 55-20 game, Michigan, when Mike Hart fumbled, their All-American level running back fumbled twice and lost the fumbles inside the 5-yard lines, giving up 2 touchdowns in the second half. So Michigan could have crushed Florida. Lloyd Carr's last game as their head coach, though, went out with a big victory against Florida.
All right, 2008, 2009 lost years for the Michigan Wolverines. In 2010, they played the Mississippi State Bulldogs and got absolutely blown out in the Gator Bowl, James.
Rich Rod's last game, nothing to say. No one wanted to see this game. No one wanted to be a part of this game. It was a complete embarrassment, and they shouldn't have let him coach the game. They should have put him out of his misery and fired him right after the Ohio State game, which everyone thought they should have done. So this was an embarrassment.
All right, in 2011, Michigan got a W in overtime against Virginia Tech, pulling out the Sugar Bowl victory 23-20.
Yeah, I mean, so they kind of a game they don't know if they deserve to be in. They won against Ohio State and Nebraska at the end of the year and then got into overtime. This is Brady Hoke's first year. Some fluky plays from Denard Robinson, some throwing balls up there that Michigan happened to catch, and it really didn't deserve to win this one probably, but they got the victory. The last BCS level game Michigan won.
All right, in 2012 and 2013, those were both L's in that column for Michigan. One against South Carolina in the Outback Bowl, one against Kansas State in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. Not some good years.
Two games you wanted. The South Carolina was an okay one. This Kansas State game was just a disaster. The end of the third year in Brady Hoke with a true freshman quarterback after Devin Gardner got hurt in the Ohio State game, and Brett Scott behind the mic. He'll remember behind the camera. Will remember this game. Complete domination by Kansas State.
All right, moving on to 2015 Citrus Bowl. Michigan had their way with the Gators. Oh, my Lord.
If you see a theme here, Lena, it's that Michigan does well playing the University of Florida always. They beat them in 3 bowl games in the last 15 years, and they beat the crap out of them this year. 4-0 versus Florida since 2002. Let's just play Florida every year in a bowl game and out of conference because you beat Florida every time you play them.
All right, last year's bowl game, James, I don't know if you want to relive this, the Orange Bowl against at one point.
Well, I mean, yeah, you had 3 losses last year for Michigan to Florida State, a top 10 team, Ohio State, the number 2 team in the country, and then to Iowa by less than a touchdown combined, 1-1, I think 4 points. So they should have won this game. They really had an opportunity to. Florida State, got them by 1 point with a late score there.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for you today. Be sure to tune in to our bowl game show on Sunday around 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be here to break down all of the bowl championships that are going to be going on Facebook Live. You don't want to miss it. But for the Michigan Insider, James Yoder, and for me, Lena Bond, your host, this was a Michigan Football Report, and we will catch you next time.